Hey, hey, hey! How's everybody out there in YouTube land? Hello, Sorrenti. Hello, Kim. How are you, darling? Dog, get. Dog. Never fails. Never fails. Dog's got to get in the way. So how is everybody out there? Can you hear me now? Sorrenti says he's good. Kim says great. Awesome. Awesome sauce. Well, we're going to give it a couple minutes, let some folks show up. Usually takes a couple minutes for people to get here, especially with my huge audience. Hello, Miss Teen 71. How are you? Hey, Austin. Glad you're here. Hey, Kelly. How you doing, buddy? Good deal. You can see and hear me. Excellent. Excellent. See the shine off of my head from the light up above me, huh? My thinning hair. Hey, Christine. We have Miss Teen and Christine. That's too much fun. Too much fun. Well, we got some interesting stuff I wanted to talk about today. We're going to try to talk about ways to make a living while you're out sailing. So, but we're going to get into that in just a little bit. We're just going to see who all else shows up. Hello, Donna. How are you? Miss Teen is Christine. Okay, so we have two Christines. Well, fun. More fun than humans should be allowed, without a doubt. Hey, Declan, how you doing, buddy? Only here for a few. Oh, sorry to hear that, Declan. We'll miss you. But I understand. I'm doing my live streams pretty late on a Sunday for you, especially where you live. So I apologize for that, but it is what it is. Hey, Grizz, how you doing, man? Caught some of your videos earlier, Grizz. Okay, well we're 5 minutes in, so I think we'll start talking about what it is we need to talk about, or what I wanted to talk about anyway. And if you guys have questions, feel free to jump in and ask. But one of the things that I think a lot of these cruising people want to know is, how can you make a living while out sailing your boat? How can you sail around the world and buy food and eat and make any kind of money? And so I wanted to address that with people and talk about some of the income options that are available. Grizz says it's hot in Oregon. Well, before I get started, I got to tell you something funny, Grizz. I got a weather alert notice over my cell phone today. Show you how screwed up our stuff is up here in Alaska. And it was a weather alert, and they were warning us about the fact that we have warm, sunny weather coming. Yep, that's right. It's 49 degrees and raining outside in Alaska, which is pretty typical for our area this time of year. It's wet and damp and cold. And but they actually put out a weather warning telling us that for the next 5 or 6 days, not today or tomorrow, but starting after that, for the next 5 or 6 days, we're going to have temperatures in the in the mid to upper 70s. And it's going to be hot and dry, according to the Weather Channel, for us up here in Alaska. And I just thought that was just so funny that what any place else would consider to be normal, pleasant weather, up here in Alaska, we actually get a weather warning about it. So people can learn to deal with the reality of having some nice weather up here for a change. So it is a bit of a concern for our forest. Our forest is pretty wet up here right now, so there's not much chance of a forest fire. But Kim says it's 91 in Kansas. Wow. Wow. Now, it was 49 when I woke up this morning, and it's warmed up to 59 now. Not quite 60 degrees yet. So sounds like weather that I would love. Oh, I don't know, Donna. If it stayed, I don't know. I don't like it being wet all the time. Weather warning was made in Washington, D.C. Yeah, that might be. 86 degrees in Missouri. Huh. 84 for Sorrenti. Wow. Yeah. Well, I just thought it was funny. It just struck me as really funny this morning when I got this ping and the special weather announcement. And And it was literally just telling us that we have good weather coming up. It just boggles my mind. But that's Alaska for you. That is absolutely Alaska for you. Last week, it kind of got out of the bag a little bit about the acquisition of the boat from Sailing Doodles. I find it interesting that a week later, I still haven't heard from Bob. He's been having some boat issues and having some fun in the Bahamas, but we don't have any confirmation on that end. So waiting to hear what's going to happen in regards to me being able to buy the Rough Seas, which is currently in Puerto Rico. So not that that's a problem. I can go to Puerto Rico and get it. So that's still up in the air. The lady buying my place here in Alaska, we're getting closer to working out details. We have a final draft of our buying agreement. She's meeting with the bank on Thursday, apparently, and maybe then we can finally have some solid something to report. You know, I find it ridiculous that I've been working with this lady on the sale of my property now for like 3 months, while she's been vacillating and working out whatever details she wants to work out ahead of time. I did research on the last property that she bought here in Alaska, and it took her about 6 months to buy that property. So apparently this is sort of a SOP for her. She just is one of these people that takes that long. But in the meantime, as a realtor, I've put together 3 or 4 other transactions where, you know, I showed the property, they bought the property, wrote the contract, did the financing, got it done, and closed. I don't know why my own property couldn't move along like that, like the rest of all the ones that I've been doing I have, but for whatever reason, this lady's just dragging stuff out. So we'll have to see what happens, but still openly optimistic, and it's nice to have somebody on the line anyway, talking about it, looking at it, so we'll see what happens. But anyhow, going back to my original subject matter, now that I've given you the Alaska update, when out sailing, when out cruising, you don't spend a lot of money. I mean, theoretically, you could be if you're on a well-equipped sailboat, you could sail around the world and not spend more than $1,000 a month. Your biggest line item you're going to have is going to be your groceries. And so you can control dramatically how much you're going to spend based on, you know, how you adjust your consumables. Well, hey, Nana Grace, glad you made it. But with that said, a lot of people are going to want to continue sailing probably beyond the reach of their income. And so how do you make money? How do you finance going ahead and doing that? And what I'm going to limit myself now to, okay, let's say you've already bought your boat and you're out sailing. How do you generate some income while you're out there? Well, obviously, the one approach that most of the cruising people in the sailing genre do is they do YouTube, and they create videos, and they have a Patreon account, much like I'm doing, and hope that they're going to generate enough income from that to be able to continue sailing and cruising. That's a fairly limited scope, and you have a lot of dependency on a whole lot of other people doing that, and that's limited to people that, you know, you have to have the right abilities, technical abilities to be able to video edit and produce the videos, an interesting enough personality, a nice enough person, someone you want to sit down and have a beer with or relax. You got to have a special kind of person in order to accomplish that. So, great job moderating Doodles. Well, thanks, Kaizen Life. Welcome. Yeah, I kind of have fun whacking people on the Doodles channel. But anyhow, I digress. So on sailing, when you're on a boat, what can you do to generate income? And for me, I'm kind of talking about what's my backup plan. Hey, 9mm James. Some make enough to fund 100 channels. Yes, some channels do make pretty good money, and most of them do not, however. So let me talk about that. I have a backup channel. I have a backup plan, I should say. If for whatever reason I'm not able to build my channel up to the point where I'm going to be able to generate enough income, and that first year or so while I'm in the process of building my channel, I have the ability of earning money from 2 other methods while I'm out living on my boat out sailing. One thing I can do, coke smuggling. That's usually not a good long-term plan. One of the things that I'm able to do, I'm a scuba diver. I'm a advanced open water certified diver. So I can dive underneath boats and clean bottoms. I can replace zincs. I can go to the bottom and retrieve anchors or whatever other items they've dropped to the bottom of the sea. And so there's some earnings that could be made doing that kind of work for people. A lot of people out sailing and cruising will hire a diver to do certain things. Go down and there's a little wheel on the bottom of the boat that connects to their speedometer, tells them how fast they're going through the water. Those get jammed up and need to be cleaned. Cleaning and knocking the barnacles off propellers, unfouling propellers, replacing the zincs that are mounted onto the prop shaft and the bottom of the boat to protect it from galvanic erosion. So there's a number of things that somebody with a ability to scuba dive can do to help offset my cruising expenses. And so that's one area that I'm going to be able to do. And I already am a diver anyway, so I have all of the gear necessary to do that, except for a dive compressor. And I will be buying one and having it on whatever boat I'm going to be out cruising on. The other backup for me is I have a Sailrite sewing machine. Yes, that's right, sewing machine. The Sailrite is a walking foot style sewing machine. It is a commercial sewing machine designed specifically for fixing sails, thus the name Sailrite. They're made for that kind of heavy duty application and are strong enough, dog, quit hitting my table, and are strong enough that they can hold up. Now, to put it in perspective for those of you out there that sew, with a Sailrite, I can take 5 layers of denim, roll it in half, and sew right through it like it was butter. That's a pretty powerful sewing machine. I can take layers of webbing material, lay that over the top of tripled up sailcloth, and be able to sew through that with no difficulty. So I'll be able to do sail repair. I'll be able to make cushions for people, repair cushions, repair hatch covers, dodgers, awnings, anything that requires fabric being assembled. So having the Sailrite, it's about $1,200 to buy one with the various accoutrements. Having one of those on board gives you an opportunity to be able to generate income by sewing and doing projects for people and making stuff as people need. And actually, that can be fairly profitable. And yes, I know I'm a guy, but I'm not afraid of sewing. My mom taught me to sew when I was a little kid, and I'm pretty good at it. So there's no reason why I couldn't continue doing that if I need the income. Kazin says, it's been said, if you're handy and can fix things, you'll become the most popular person in port very quickly. In the past, I found this to be true. Yes, very, very true. Paraglide 1. Hey, Paraglide, nice to see you here. Sailrite has a nice YouTube channel. Yes, they do. They have quite a few videos, instructional videos on how to do various things, like how to sew your own dodger, or how to sew your own covers over your cockpit, or how to make, little bags and covers and cushions and any number of things that we find common on and around sailboats. So you get to be able to make a lot of custom stuff for people, which garners a pretty good dollar. I was just watching a video the other day, and they were talking about they had a catamaran sailboat, and they wanted to get new cushions made for the basically the living room, the main salon of their catamaran, and for the seating area on the back. They wanted all new cushions made up for that area, and the price that they were given was $30,000. With a Sailrite sewing machine and maybe $1,000 worth of materials, you could crank that out for a whole lot less. So there's some money to be had there if you have those capabilities. And Kazin is right. If you can fix things, if you can work on diesel engines, if you're a diesel engine mechanic, and if you're not, go to a school. There's some schools available for marine diesel engine repair, and go to those schools and take the class for 6 weeks or so and learn about it so you can have those kind of expertises. Just because you don't have these skill sets today doesn't mean you can't have these skill sets in in a month or 2 months or 6 months or whatever it takes you to get to that point. Yeah, $30,000 was a lot for those cushions, but I've heard of other kind of crazy quotes like that. Problem with that is you will be taking work away from people that are registers in those countries, and you will not be registered for taxes. Easy to get locked up for taking little jobs away from. Yeah, Declan, as a general rule, that's not really an issue. Um, and for the most part, a lot of times you're going to be in anchorages or in locations where those services simply just don't exist. So you're not really taking a job away from anybody. As a scuba diver, I'm going to inventory my boat with a selection of zincs, the plethora of zincs that are most commonly used on various boats, and just have them on board with me. And if I'm in some, remote island out in the middle of nowhere and somebody is having problems with their zinc all worn out and wants it replaced, I'll have the zinc there. I'll be able to charge them a reasonable markup on there and my cost for going down and installing it. So you're not necessarily. Now, I'm not talking about being able to go to someplace like Fort Lauderdale and do these kind of services, because there'll be somebody in Fort Lauderdale that could do that cheaper and faster and easier for me, who, you're right, probably has the proper licensing and ability to pay taxes. I'm talking about being able to do cash jobs in remote locations or while out sailing and cruising. I'm not talking about going and setting up a shop where I'm going to have a retail front or whatever, even on my boat, and be set up and, hey, I'm doing sail repair or something. There's a difference in those economies. Okay. Being able to work on electronics, networking electronics on the boat, the navigational gear that everyone's so dependent on, understanding the different systems and getting those systems to be able to communicate with one another, especially in the areas of Wi-Fi connectivity. This is a huge market and a huge issue with a lot of boats that are out sailing and cruising. So if you have expertise in that matter and computer technology, you can make some money. Website development is another area where you can make a good amount of money. Building up websites and blogs and setting that up for people is some place that you can go to make a good amount of money. Writing. There's a number of people that write articles for the sailing magazines, write books. There's I can't speak today. There's a bunch of different ways that you can use writing as a way to generate an income. Hey, take that year off while you're out sailing and write a book. Write the next great American novel. Nothing wrong with that. So there's a way you can earn money. Being able to do various and sundry boat repairs, fiberglass repairs, or that kind of stuff, especially in the case of emergency repairs, and having some of those tools and having some of the equipment on board. Welding is a big one. Being able to do welding for like stanchions, stainless steel, any kind of stainless steel welding. And it would not take much on a boat to put a welder with, if you have a generator, to put a welder on board. So it wouldn't take much, a small one, but one that could do stainless steel, and put in an inventory of a certain amount of pipe on board your boat, which you could store down in various holes if you have the right size boat. But, you have the ability of being able to create a floating metal shop. Not the best thing in the world to do, but hey, if somebody's out in the middle of someplace and needs a piece of metal fixing this, that, or the other thing, then, having that available and being able to have those skill sets can be a way to generate some other money. Just talking about other countries, if they find out, it will not be good. Yeah, Declan, I know what you're talking about, and as a cruiser, you're not going to be in too many other countries for that long. I'm not talking about steady jobs. I'm talking about being able to pick up some extra money, one job, two jobs here, there, or elsewhere. Although there's some options to that. Of Kelvin's bowls on metal hull vessels. Okay. Yes, the correct adjustment on metal hull vessels. I assume you're referring to the zinc anodes when you talk about the Kelvin's balls. You're talking about the zinc anodes that are there, and yes, replacing those on the boat to offset the volcanic erosion. There's a guy and a girl, there's a couple that converted their boat into a pizzeria. They have their boat in the Caribbean right now. I believe they're in the British Virgin Islands. And they literally have made their boat into a floating pizzeria. So they sit there on anchorages, and they'll sail up into an anchorage, and their signs on the side of their boat says pizzeria, and they'll sit there and make pizzas for all the boats there in that little anchorage. And they'll sell 10 or 20 or 30 or 50 pizzas in a day, and delivering them out to all those boats, and then they've made enough money to last them another month or so. So there's a lot of things, if you take some time and think about it, there's a lot of creative ways to generate income while you're out sailing and cruising. So just because you don't have all the money up front initially, there are some small things you can do, like learning to weld, learn during diesel repair, work on some writing skills, learn how to sew, learn about electronics and Wi-Fi. You can prepare yourself with that education now, so that when you're out sailing and cruising, you have the opportunity for making a living once you're out there. You don't have to have all the money right now, is what I'm saying. Pizza Pie there in Christmas Cove. So awesome. Yes. And they're not just in Christmas Cove. Pizza Pie does move around from time to time. They move from area to area. Once you're out on the water, will you do a maintenance video weekly plus a regular video? Kim, I don't know that I'm going to do a maintenance video every week. I'm going to be generating a lot of content. There will be some maintenance stuff on there, but I don't see maintenance Monday like Bob does as all that interesting or entertaining. Especially since my genre, the stuff I'm going to be getting involved with is going to be, yes, a lot of sailing, a lot of travel stuff, a lot of scuba diving, spearfishing, resourcing my own foods and stuff. Not necessarily just fixing my boat in exotic places. I plan on doing a lot more varied content than just that, although that will be obviously part of it. Lord Kelvin's spherical compensators, they correct the magnetic compass on metal holes. Oh, okay. I was not aware of that, Austin. Yes, I guess that would be true. A magnetic compass would be a problem on a steel-hulled boat, wouldn't it? Could definitely be affected. I could see the advantage of that. So no, I was not aware of that. But yeah, I guess that's something that could be adjusted then. Bob has the corner on Maintenance Monday, Kim. Well, if there's anything we have learned in the sailing genre, is nobody has the corner on anything. Everything's fair game. I am a little miffed. I'm a little saddened by the fact that it seems like all the creators are doing the exact same subject matter. I'm tired of seeing a boat sail in the Bahamas and go visit the pigs. How many times can you watch somebody swim through the caves there on Norman Island in the BVI? It just seems like it's the same content rehashed over and over and over again. I really have been enjoying some of the channels lately that are putting out content in outside of the norm area, like Sailing Creo. A really nice couple from England are sailing in the Greek Isles. And so it's nice to see something different than just the Bahamas or the Caribbean. Some people are out in French Polynesia, and so that's, interesting to see some of those areas. So I don't think you will need Plan B, just my opinion. Well, thanks, Kelly. I appreciate that. But, being a good Boy Scout, I want to be prepared and have a backup and have, some options and not be limiting myself. Of course, I always have the major option for me is I can sail back over to Florida, get my real estate broker's license in Florida again, which I've already had once before, and I could sell real estate. I'd probably be the only realtor in Florida who doesn't own real estate, living on a boat, and yet sell real estate. But yeah, I could do that. So, and I would make pretty good bank. But fact is, folks, I don't have my heart in it anymore. I just don't have my heart in it. I'm really frustrated with dealing with people that just won't accept reality for reality. I'll give you an example. I have some people who want me to sell some land that they own up here in Alaska. I did research, looked at all their properties around their property and what they're selling for, and they're selling in that $15,000 to $30,000 range for parcels identical to theirs. In fact, The very lot right next to their lot is for sale for around $35,000. I mean, their piece of land is here. This is the one that borders them. Almost identical view, identical topography, has the same amenities, and yet these guys are asking $35,000 for that lot and have been on the market now for like 3 years at that price and haven't sold it yet. Meanwhile, these guys are asking $99,000 for their property because they, for whatever reason, they just think that's what the market is. And I can't convince them to face reality. So the reality I'm faced with is, hey, folks, I'm not interested in trying to sell your property. I'm not going to waste my time or money. And I'm really tired of running into that kind of scenario up here as a realtor. So been doing it long enough. I need to move on and get fresh doing something new. So that's one of the things that makes Delos really awesome. Nobody else is in the Indian Ocean. Yeah. Delos has been sailing into some interesting areas, different areas than everybody else, and that definitely helps them. I will say at this point, though, Kaizen, they've kind of done the Indian Ocean now. So I am glad that they're sailing over. They're heading for South America right now. I believe they're in the process or just left the Ascension Islands and are now heading over to Colombia, I believe, or heading over to Brazil. Maybe it's Brazil they're heading over to. So, yeah, we're going to start seeing some sailing in the South America, which would be cool to see that. That'll be interesting. Let's see. You definitely need to create something that will give something different or the it factor. Yes, Kelly, and believe me, I will. A lot of my content's going to be very different than what you see a lot of these people do. So have a look at, I think the name is, yes, Old Sea Dog. I've been following him for some time now. It was really interesting when he was sailing over off the coast of Portugal. Then he went to the Azores, and that was sort of interesting. Or not the Azores, the Cape Verde Islands. That was sort of interesting. And now he's in the Southern Caribbean. And in the Southern Caribbean, it's not quite so interesting anymore. But still, he has a different perspective, and I kind of appreciate his perspective. So, oh, Kim, I am looking forward to believe me, I am looking forward to being able to produce the pics and videos that I'll be doing. Really looking forward to it. So, Ventures of an Old Sea Dog. Yes, that's who we're talking about, the Old Sea Dog. Yes, Declan. Yeah, he does some great stuff. Really does. I like his attitude and perspective. He's that same grouchy old bastard like me kind of perspective. So I find that kind of interesting. What I am sad to think about, though, is that he's been doing videos for a long, long time, and he really hasn't built much of an audience for himself. Considering how long he's been doing it, he just doesn't have a lot of viewers. So I don't know. We'll have to see how that breaks down. So 9mm Megan is very positive and very spontaneous and a free spirit in her. Yeah, Megan's awesome. She really is. I don't think Bob really appreciates the asset, and I don't mean that any pun intended. I don't think Bob really appreciates the asset that Megan brings to his channel. Frankly, I don't think Bob would be anywhere near where he's at today or experiencing anywhere near the growth that he's experiencing if Megan had not been out there with him and on his channel. So, and it's not just because she's a pretty girl wearing a bikini. That's, obviously has a little bit to do with it. It has more to do with the personality and the kind of person she is. She's just really vivacious, outgoing, optimistic, positive. So I can't speak well enough about Megan. And as much as I like her, and she's always going to be welcome on my boat anytime she wants to, she is kind of young, 27 years old. So my last wife was 17 years younger than me. So like most old dogs, we go for younger women, but that might be a little much. That would be really robbing the cradle. So no offense, Kim and Kelly, she's a great girl, but she's not the right girl for me. She's just a little too young. Oh, gosh, there's a lecture soul bastard, huh? Anyhow, so that was kind of what I wanted to talk about, was just that there are some other ways of making a living while out cruising. I think people can spend a little bit of time, effort, and energy thinking about what it is that they do. Think about what your abilities and capabilities are, and try to accentuate those. If you're mechanically inclined, then get some of the tools necessary to do the diesel repair, and get out there and take the diesel school and learn how to do that. If you're good with electronics and technology and stuff, then learn and read up and become expert in those areas. I think anybody today, with the internet that we have today, the availability of subject matter, you can become really knowledgeable on any subject in 6 months. I don't care what it is. There's so many videos and educational and training stuff out there. You can become expert in a whole bunch of different subjects in a matter of 6 months in today's day and age. I mean, you could be taking a 4-year college degree and compiling it all down to the basic material and studying that and complete 4 years of college in 6 months online today. So there's no excuse for somebody going out there and not being prepared for what they're doing. Kim says you have some other boats that you're looking at. Yeah, Kim, I've been looking at a bunch of different boats. And frankly, there's a bunch of other boats out there that might better serve me than the rough seas. There are other boats that, he's got it's a 37-foot CNC. Bob's asking, I think he said today, $29,000 is what he wanted on the boat. I'm seeing some CNCs, same year vintage, same length, for 22, 25,000. So there are some other boats and some other options. But the thing that bothers me about Bob's boat is there's no water maker and there's no hot water on it. Two things that I could change with a $5,000 investment, but still there's none on there. So, but there is, to me, the technical, or the tactical, I should say, advantage, and that I'm hoping that I might be able to sway a lot of his viewers to come over to my channel and help me get a jump on building my channel by segueing from Bob over to me. So that's kind of some of my thinking. And I don't mind paying a premium for the boat if that'll facilitate having that happen to some degree. So Declan says it's your attitude, happiness, and enjoyment of life. Yeah. She's pretty cool. Kazan says, I think it's Megan's infectious smile. If you're genuine, you can't help but smile when she does. Yeah, she's good people. Absolutely. I signed up for the Annapolis Diesel course. Anyone here gone through already? Hey, Mike, that's great. That's exactly what I'm talking about. And anybody that's a sailor or a cruiser, it doesn't hurt to go take a 2-3 week diesel course. It'll serve you well while you're out sailing. Now, I am not a mechanic by choice. You want a house built? I'll build you a house. Plumbing, electrical, I can build a house from the ground up. Foundations, roofing, the whole 9 yards. I can build a house from the ground up. I've built 5 of them so far in my lifetime. So I know I can build a house. I don't work on engines by choice. Not that I can't, I just prefer not to. That said, when I have my own sailboat, you learn about diesel engines pretty quick by necessity. I can change the oil, I can change the water pumps, I can, troubleshoot the injectors. Not that I want to do that, but I've learned how to do that. I can check my dripless bearings and stuff. I've learned enough about some of those things to work around those details, but it really would be good, and probably would help me actually take a diesel course, but we'll see how that goes. Those are a must. Yes, hot water and a water maker are a must, especially on Bob's boat because he has such a small water tank. Having a water maker would drastically extend the range of that boat. Plus, he has a small fuel tank, but you can store fuel on board. It is a sailboat after all. There's a ton of sailboats for sale in Rhode Island. Yeah, there's a ton of sailboats for sale everywhere right now, Christine. It's that time of year. If you're a saltwater sailor, and all the guys that were down in the Caribbean all winter long are all selling their boats now. Hurricane season, they don't want to have to pay to store their boat for the winter for whatever reason. There's a ton of boats that come on the market this time of year every year because this is the beginning of hurricane season. And hopefully, if I can get my property here sold and get things moved along, I'll be in the market and be able to buy a boat within the next 60 days or so, and I'll still be during that hurricane season, and so have the opportunity to have access to a lot of boats. And there's a lot of inventory on the market right now. There's a ton of inventory on the market. I mean, there's literally hundreds of boats that I could look at. You do a quick search on Yacht World, there's hundreds of boats. And Yacht World, you usually pay a premium for those boats because they are being represented by a boat dealer. You can get on Craigslist and find thousands of more boats, which can offer sometimes a little bit better deal. In Bob's case, it's not a bad deal for his boat. It really isn't. It's not a bad deal. It's a little bit higher priced than the market, and it's in Puerto Rico, which is a bit of a pain in the butt because I'd have to fly to Puerto Rico and then run the boat back up to Florida so I could load all my stuff on and then head out. But the boat's pretty much turnkey, I think, and so that might help me. But I don't really know what kind of condition it's in, and so there might be other things that could be problematic. So who knows? We don't know what we're going to do. Declan says 29 grand is only an asking price. You will get it for 25 realistically. Yeah, Declan, you are probably correct. Bob said he was going to contact me. Actually, I thought I would hear from him earlier today, and I haven't. During their live stream today, he said he would get in touch with me with a counter offer to my offer. So we'll see. Frankly, I thought I made him one hell of a good offer. I really did. I thought I made him one hell of a good offer on the boat. But for some reason, he thinks it's necessary to come back with a counter offer. So we'll see what he has to say. Buy a boat with a Volvo engine and you don't need a course. I don't know, HR. I've seen a lot of Volvos have problems. Yes, they're a good engine, but I've seen a lot of Volvo engines have problems. They're just as susceptible to having problems as the Yanmars, which is the other engine, or the Universals, which are very common out there. I've owned two Universals. Both of my sailboats that I owned were Cals, a Cal 30 and a Cal 31, and they both had the same 35 horsepower Universal engine in them. So, and as 9mm James says, they all break. Yep, there's no such thing as a engine out there that doesn't break. My own rule on buying a boat: purchase price, the cost of what I need on it, other price. Yeah. I mean, and that's it, Kaizen. You got to think of the overall picture. It's not just a matter of just buying the boat, but then what do I got to do to the boat to make it seaworthy to move on? The one thing I can say about Bob's boat that I kind of like is that he has been out sailing and cruising it. He sailed it to Puerto Rico. If you sell it to Puerto Rico, you got to be able to sell it away from Puerto Rico. But that said, I don't know how much deferred maintenance that boat has acquired, because Bob hasn't exactly been flush with cash up to this point while he's owned that boat. So I imagine there's a number of things in regards to standing and running rigging, other items on the boat that maybe weren't installed as well as they could have been with somebody with a deeper wallet. So, there's a trade-off there. I'm hoping, because of the public nature of YouTube, that Bob's going to be forthright and open and honest about what the problems are with the boat before we go anywhere further on it. But I won't know until he actually reaches back to me and touches base with me and we get to see where that's at. If he and I don't work it out, it's really not a big deal. I'm still a fan of him and his show, and there's 1,000 other boats out there for me to look at. So I've always been a firm believer that what will be will be. I'm not a deeply religious man, and that I don't go to church on a regular basis anymore, and I don't pray on things. Things are going to happen. I graduated high school at a U.S. Navy Department of Defense high school in Bahrain in the Persian Gulf. And the Arabs have a saying, they say, Inshallah. Inshallah means God willing. So, and that's kind of, I guess, what's going to happen is what's going to happen, and what's going to happen is usually going to be for the best for whatever reason. You may not believe that now, but in the long term in your life, it's going to be for the best. Maybe not be the best for you, but in general, it's going to be for the best. So I kind of like to follow my life a little bit in that regard and think that at some point down the road things are going to be for the best. But yeah, you got to think about the purchase price of buying the boat, what you have to do initially on the boat to get it seaworthy and comfortable for yourself. Fact is, Bob's boat's really not a good layout for my plans and what I'm doing. He doesn't have the sugar scoop rear end, which is a big issue for me, make it easier for me to get on the boat and the dog to get on the boat. But it will be a good temporary fix while I'm waiting for my financing here in Alaska to come to fruition and get cashed out. And then once I get cashed out, I'll buy the boat that I really want. And that's going to happen in 12 to 24 months after I sell here. Because I'm only going to get a very small amount of the money that I'm supposed to be getting from the sale of the property here for now, and the rest later. So I hope this dream turns into a YouTube spectacle between friends over a boat. At this point, that's my hope. Doesn't turn into a YouTube spectacle. Well, it won't on my part. You know, even if the boat, if I were to buy the boat and Bob flat out lied about something, it'd be one thing. But you know, to buy the boat, I know I'm buying an old boat that's beat up, it's going to have problems and need a lot of stuff. I mean, I'm going into that with open eyes. So, and I'm certainly not going to beat up Bob over it. So don't worry about that. This is not going to be WWE over a boat. That's not at all. That's not at all the direction this will ever go. You don't have to concern yourself with that. I didn't mean to infer anything like that. So, oh gosh, we took that in the wrong direction. Okay, yeah, that's not that. I'm looking forward to buying the Rough Seas, and I think it'll be a good deal for everybody. I think it'll be a fair deal for Bob, and it'll be a fair deal for me. So, that's what I'm hoping for anyway. So we'll see how things go. But to answer Kim's question earlier, yes, Kim, I have been looking at a bunch of different boats. There are a lot of boats on the market. There's actually some pretty cool old boats on the market, relatively cheaply. Some older boats, some much older boats, almost historic boats, if you will, that can be bought. And there's boats in every imaginable configuration of and in need of repair or maintenance or what have you. So you just got to kind of go through all those and think about what is their pluses and minuses and how well that works with your plans. So what's the first thing you want to do once you're out on the water? Go swimming. That's the first thing I want to do when I get out on the boat is go for a swim. I want to swim in some clear blue water. I'd like to get the boat to someplace where there's beautifully clear blue water and spend, drop the hook and just spend a week swimming every day, 10 hours a day, just float around in the water and enjoy the water. I can't tell you how much I miss that up here in Alaska. So that's the first thing I want to do once I'm on the water is get in the water. Get off the boat and get into the water. So, hey, Dave, how you doing? 16 people watching, haven't hit like yet. Come on, people. Yeah, 27 people watching, actually. I don't know, is that what it says, is 16? My thing shows 27 watching, but there's a lot of people hiding in the background, you know. They don't like to admit they're here. So I often wonder about that, you know. We have a lot of people that just sort of hide in the grass, as it were. But yes, lurkers, Sorrenti. Yes, lurkers. That will be fun. Yeah, I think it'll be fun. And grab my scuba gear and go down. Break the dust off my scuba gear and get it all cleaned up and going. Getting all my fishing gear rigged up and set back up again. You know, right now it's all kind of torn down and broke down. The reels are off the rods and that kind of stuff. So easily going to have a good week of getting my own gear sorted and reassembled and out there, getting my dive housings and stuff out. I've been working this week actually with my old dive camera. This is an Icolite dive housing, and it's for my little old JVC, I don't know if you can see it in there, a little JVC video camera. This has got other parts that aren't assembled to it right now. It's got handles on here and stuff, but I can go around the water and film with this. This is a dive housing for my old JVC. By today's standards, this is not great quality. YouTube standards, it'll probably be okay, but this is not, you know, this is not what I would even consider prosumer quality video. We have used this camera before, and we have used it on network television, only to shoot a commercial that we did with the big camera we used to own, my big Panasonic HVX 200, which we had in a housing. So that's not the real deal. The real deal is getting a housing for my Canon D70. I'm going to get a big, again, an Icolite housing for this camera, and then I'll be able to shoot some really nice underwater video. Or possibly I may upgrade that camera to go 4K and then get a housing for that. So let's see, Mike says I'm not here. Okay, Mike, we'll keep your secret, buddy. Hey, Judy, how you doing? Carl, are you using a different camera for weeks? Your show's been square-shaped on my TV like TV used to poke on a square set. No, I'm not using a different camera for my live. Well, this is for my live stream. I'm just working off of my webcam on my computer. Whereas when I shoot my episodes, it'll be full screen. It'll be full wide. Doing the live streams, it puts it into this smaller format. So that may be what you're looking at, Judy. Hey, Patrick, how are you, buddy? Well, thanks, Patrick. I hope everything works out for me, too. You know, I have a lot of family members in Naples. My father's brother lived there, Reginald Brook. Him and my cousins at the time used to own a motel there in Naples, and they did airboat tours out over the Everglades. They took people out there and looked for gators and stuff. Back in the day when I was a kid. Oh, interesting area. Phil Borman, I'm a lurker. I watch because you do have some interesting points you talk about. Well, thanks, Phil. I appreciate that. But jump in and say hello and add to the conversation if you would. Hey, Keith Butler, how you doing? Just got here, but to be honest, Bob and Megan seems to be really nice and honest people. You will be getting a bad boat, and I'm sure Bob will disclose. Yeah, well, I'm sure, Keith, absolutely. I have no doubt. I didn't mean to. That's what I was saying. That's what I was trying to say is I have confidence that Bob's going to be straightened up front about everything. So, which is a unique advantage because through YouTube I've been able to get to know Bob a little bit. So I have a much higher comfort level buying from Bob than I would buying from nobody out there on the street. So I guess that was the point I was trying to convey. I'd be very comfortable buying from Bob because I've gotten to know him a little bit, and he knows what I'm going to be doing, and I just think that would be a real good positive relationship for both of us, and it could really work to both of our advantages. I would like to do some collaborative stuff with Bob. I have some skills that he doesn't have, like being able to shoot underwater video and doing some more of that kind of stuff. I've got a working drone, which he doesn't have at the moment. So doing some aerial stuff. I'd really like to see us do some collaborative stuff together. So I think I could help him out, and then maybe he could help me out by talking about that on his channel, and maybe some of those viewers would come over. So I think it's going to be a good relationship. I really do. I think it's going to be a good, positive relationship if we can work out the details of the boat transfer. I really would like to buy the boat from him. So you do. Judy says YouTube must have changed something. Well, maybe. It's the resolution setting. Okay, maybe. You have to visit Sarawak. The Brook family used to own the whole country. Okay, well, I'll have to do that, Austin. Sarawak, huh? I'll have to look that up. Sarawak, Sarawak. I know I know the Brooke family has a castle in Wales. I do know that has our coat of arms on it. Imagine that. I have a coat of arms, right? How crazy is that? But yeah, supposedly we have a coat of arms, and there's a castle in Wales that has the Brooke family coat of arms on it that we're supposed to be related to. So whatever boat you get, you'll be happy out there on the water. Oh, Kim, you know it. I miss being out on the water. I'm a sailor by heart and by love, and that's going to convey over in my videos. You'll be able to see that love for the ocean and what I'm doing. At least I hope I'm able to convey that. So devices, can I do anything on my end? Because live streams used to stretch across the TV. Judy, the only thing I can suggest is look at your television controls. Your TV remote should have something that says format on it, maybe. Press your format button on your TV remote, and it might change the format on your TV screen. That's all I can suggest. So, good sir, was with you in Bob's stream this morning, but I missed Ruby Red stream, but went back and watched it. Yeah, I watched Ruby's selling Ruby in New York. They're in New York City right now. So interesting live stream. It would be fun. That would be fun to work together. Yes, Kim, I really think so. And I haven't had an opportunity to discuss that much with Bob, but I could really see us doing quite a bit together. And I could help him generate some content that he would not otherwise be able to create. So I think that would be pretty cool. Dave says, have you started separating your possessions into going to the boat and sell? Yes. Oh, man, I've been doing that for a while now. I've already, we've had 2 auctions already that we've hauled stuff off to. And there's a third one coming up the end of this month. That'll be the last little bit, but I still have a certain amount of basic stuff here in the cabin that I have to hold on to as long as I live here. And I've made arrangements with the auctioneer guy that once I am ready to leave, I'm packing all my stuff up into a small trailer to go behind my truck and pull out of here. And he's going to come here the next day and then load all the remaining stuff that I have laying around. You know, the pots, pans, dishes, glasses, all that kind of stuff that remains. The metal shelves up behind me and what have you. And that should all happen here in about 60 days. I think we're in the 60 to 75 day range right now for when we should be getting out of here. At least I hope that's the case. So is your offer price for the boat public? No, Mike, it's not. Sorry. Sorry, no. Now Bob may decide to make it public. I don't know. Actually, I didn't know Bob was even going to make it public that I made an offer on the boat. I wasn't going to say anything. I wasn't going to say anything until it was a done deal. But even though he and I haven't agreed on a price or any of the details of the price, he went ahead and said we were going to do something. So yes, I would love to do something with Bob and the Rough Seas. It's just going to see if we can work it out. And I'm pretty sure we can, as long as we're both not being ridiculous. So, we all know you just want to convince Megan to sail on the monohull. Hey, I would love to have Megan on the boat with me. And I've also extended an offer to Kim and Kelly to come out and join me on the boat. That's Megan's mom and dad. I understand they've not gone sailing yet, and for whatever reason, they're not getting out on the rough seas with Bob. So I'll put it out there that, you know, I get like back over to Florida. They should, you know, drive down to Florida and come out and spend some time out on the boat with me. We can go do some fishing and some snorkeling and swimming and have some fun. And in fact, I may be opening that up to other people that are, you know, my regular viewers and stuff, especially the people involved in my Patreon page. So, yeah, I'll definitely be opening that up to other people to come out and visit me on the boat. I hope to have a long processional of people coming and going from the boat. Ideally, I'd like to segue that over where I'm having a lot of researchers out on the boat, you know, college people studying whatever, you know, starfish, jellyfish, fish eggs, coral reefs, you know, whatever it is they're studying. But in the meantime, just having normal people, which of course leaves all you guys out, but just having normal people out on the boat with me. See, sailed my 27-foot Watkins from Massachusetts to Florida in 1997. Lived on it for 5 years. Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Where were you in Massachusetts, Patrick? I've sailed over to Martha's Vineyard in that area before. A friend of mine had what was it? An O'Day. We had an O'Day sailboat. We sailed over to Martha's Vineyard and spent the summer living on the sailboat in Martha's Vineyard. So, yeah, it's a good sign that he brought it up in the live stream. Yeah, Keith, I'm hoping so. I mean, he almost sort of committed himself kind of in doing that, because now it may not look so good if we don't put something together, maybe. But yeah, I'm hoping that's a good sign. So Kim says I'm chicken getting in the ocean. Well, Kim, we'll get you over that. There's really, the odds that you're ever going to have a problem with anything in the ocean. I mean, sure, stuff happens, but you're less likely to be affected by anything in the ocean than you are just driving down the streets there in Kansas. So Keith says, I see you made an offer to the Drench group. Actually, the people, the YouTube channel Drenched is a channel that's been doing some scuba diving stuff. We had talked a couple times about them coming on board and diving with me. Yeah, I had made an offer to them to come out and spend some time out on the boat. It remains to see what kind of stuff we may do with them in the future. I'm a patron of theirs, and so I was kind of hoping they might be able to come out and do some stuff, and I'm sure they will at some point. Just a matter of working out the schedule and seeing what happens. So, Kaizen says I've been all over Kansas, and I wouldn't drive to Florida. That's a flight or a no-go. Well, then fly. That's not. I mean, flying to Florida is not a problem. I drive a lot, Kaizen. I'm not. I used to be an airline brat. My father worked for the airlines, and I've really gotten to the point where I just can't stand flying anymore. Sorry about that. My phone keeps pinging. I was wondering what was going on. So I always would prefer driving someplace. But yeah, it's a cheap flight from Kansas down to Miami or Fort Lauderdale, or for that matter, if I'm in the Bahamas, to fly right over to Nassau. So, you're a funny guy. I like you. I'll kill you last. Okay, Declan, that's good to know. I used to drive from Georgia to Louisiana every week for 27 years. Ouch. Ouch. That's not a fun drive. That's a hot drive. Mostly flat country, though. Mostly flat ground, so a lot of straight roads and stuff. At that time, sailing with Rick. Yeah, they did sail with Rick for a while. In fact, the episodes that they're putting out right now are back when they were sailing with Rick. I became a patron of theirs beforehand when they were in Hawaii doing some dives and stuff. And I kind of like some of the quality of the underwater footage and stuff that they do. They have more technical ability for setting up a website and doing some of that stuff, and maybe some better editing than I'm accustomed to. So I was hoping maybe we might work some out that they could help with some of my technical aspects on developing my channel and website and what have you, but social media, that kind of stuff. But we'll see, we'll see. There's no that. Yes. Yeah, I got that. Okay. Look out, Kim Shark. L.A., California. Oh, California, not Louisiana. You were a truck driver then, Keith. If you drove from Georgia to Los Angeles, you were driving over the road then. That's never fun. I did a little over-the-road driving back when I was in college. I hauled clay tile from Nelsonville, Ohio, or Logan, Ohio, to Kansas City. We went to the Kansas City stockyards. And no offense, Kim, but Kansas is a weird state. It really is. I had a sister that went to Kansas State University in Kansas City, Missouri. How come Kansas State University isn't even in the state of Kansas? It's in Missouri, the state over the next over. That was so weird to me. But yeah, she went to Kansas State University in Kansas City, Missouri. Weird. Weird. So, yeah, I'm a real big fan of Rick's channel. Yeah, I am too. I think Rick Moore does an excellent job. I would like to see him do more of the vlogging stuff that he's doing more of now than the stuff he was doing early on when he was more concerned with, doing the corporate commercial kind of stuff that he was doing before. So I think we're getting to know more about who Rick is and what he's about and what's going on with his life, which is, I think, what makes vlogging so interesting. I think it's one of the reasons why people really like YouTube so much is because of the sort of intimate contact that you get to know somebody and get to meet somebody. I mean, this is reality TV, frankly. Today this is reality TV. This is me having an opportunity to talk one-on-one with you like this and share my life with you. Could you imagine the possibility of being able to do that with anybody on television today? That's what's making YouTube so popular, I think. There is a K-State in Kansas. Oh, there is a Kansas State in Kansas. Okay. Well, maybe they just have a different campus than in Missouri. I don't know. I remember we drove her to school. This is when I was a kid, really young kid, but I remember we drove her to school. We drove her to Kansas, dropped her off there at school, but it was in Missouri, not in Kansas. And I remember as a kid that being a big conversation with my parents because there was a lot of confusion about why she was going to Kansas State University that was in Missouri. Patrick McCartney would take 2 weeks in the summer and sail the Vineyard, Hadley Harbor, etc. Was living in Brant Rock near Plymouth, Mass. Oh, cool. Okay. Beautiful cruising ground there. Really nice. Unfortunately, the water's kind of cold and dark and dirty. No visibility whatsoever. But yeah, nice area to sail around. Most things in the U.S. is weird. Isn't that the truth? It was probably one of those Kansas State satellite schools that was over there. The main school is in Manhattan, Kansas. Okay. I didn't know that, Kelly. Huh. At Kim Binkley, yes, there is. And they got beat by OU 9 times out of 10. Boomer. LOL, don't shoot. Okay, so Kaizen, I suppose by that you're from Oklahoma? Because you said OU, or are you from Ohio? KU and Kansas State. Huh. I don't know. I was a kid at the time. I don't know if it was Kansas University or Kansas State. I don't know which. I don't know. And that sister and I don't really talk much anymore, so I couldn't go and ask her, but I don't remember which one it was. As a scuba diver myself, what sort of research are you going to be doing? Phil, actually, very much involved with reef.org. I don't know if you're familiar with them. I was just actually going through my material. There's a group called Reef Check. I don't know if you've seen that. Reef Check, they do data collection. You dive down on the reefs and you identify and count fish. And the idea is to develop a database of what fish are there and how well they're doing. And then over the years, more people dive the same areas and tabulate and on and on. And we're just developing a huge database of information. So that's a lot about what I want to be doing is that kind of research. But other than that, I'm wide open to doing all kinds of research. I would love to use my boat as a facility for researchers to be able to use to go and do whatever research that they have interest in doing. I'm open to all of that, and I plan on trying to stay very open to that. So I'm currently going to be involved with doing the fish counts, plastic studies, plus just gathering research on water temperature, testing the water for total dissolved solvents or solids and salinity and pH and just creating all the data that I can. So, yeah, he said that he was pretty much done with the charters and cutting way back on video work from big companies. But yeah, I agree. His more personal vlogs are a lot better. And a lot of that, Keith, was I think that he became aware of the economic opportunities that was in front of him by doing more of the vlog stuff on YouTube. You know, he's finally seen the light that he can make not maybe as much money, but regular money by doing more of the vlog stuff. You know, after seeing the success that the Vagabond and Delos and people like them are having. So he's sort of jumping on that bandwagon a little bit. Kelly says, Grandpa, do you plan on continuing a live feed on Sundays as you're doing now while you're sailing? Yes, Kelly, I definitely will continue doing live streams. I don't know how consistent I'm going to be able to be or how regular I'm going to be depending on where I am in the world. But yes, I do plan on trying to maintain a live stream at this time and date, you know, Sundays at 7 p.m. Eastern time, wherever I am. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out as I'm traveling around the world, because, you know, I might have to be up at midnight or 2 a.m. for wherever I'm at in order to be in that time zone. So the times may change a little bit, but yes, I intend on continuing to do live streams. I will say, Kelly, that I'm going to attempt to do a really good job at determining that I've got good up speed wherever I'm at, and will invest the time, effort, energy to try to assure my viewers that I'll be able to provide a good, solid, uninterrupted live stream. It may be degraded, like my video quality now is pretty degraded, so that I can do this because I don't have very good upload speed here in Alaska. But yeah, I'm going to try to continue doing that as best I can. If I can see the bottom, I'm okay to swim. Well, Kim, that could be dangerous for you. I know a lot of places where it could be 60, 70, or 100 feet deep, and you can still see the bottom. So that's not always the best litmus test, although I happen to agree with you in regards to being able to see well through the water. I don't like diving in water with poor visibility. Is there a FU in Florida, or is that in Nebraska? No, Florida University has an FU, and there's Florida International, there's Florida State. Florida's got a bunch of schools. I live in Ohio now. It sucks. Oklahoma is my home. Kazim, where in Ohio? My family originally was from Columbus in southeast Ohio down the Hocking Hills. I have 2 sons in Lancaster, Ohio. So where are you in the Buckeye State? And by the way, I went to OU in Athens, Ohio. That's my alma mater, just to give you some perspective. Dave says, with regards to diving underwater video, Youngblood Spearfishing is an amazing channel. Yeah, I've been watching Youngbloods, Dave. And I'll be doing a lot of that same kind of similar stuff, although not so much after trophy fish and not so much into killing, 5, 10, 20 fish at a time. I'm going to be out there on the water all the time. So if I'm spearfishing, I'm spearfishing for dinner. I'm not spearfishing for putting meat in the freezer for the next month. I'll be spearfishing just for what's for dinner. In fact, one of the videos that I'm going to try to do on a weekly basis is a hook or spear to fork episode, where I'm either going to catch a fish on the line or catch it by spearfishing or grabbing it or shrimp trap or crab trap or what have you. And, this is how I caught it, this is how I process it, and this is how I cook it, and put on a regular cooking episode that way. And that's something I plan on doing on a regular basis. So, okay, as chat moved up, I got to go back here so I can see stuff. Do you have a scuba compressor? Mike, I do not have a scuba compressor at this time, but I will be buying one and having it on the boat with me. There's no point in me buying one and having it flown up here to me in Alaska just so I can truck it back across the country. So I'm going to wait until I have a boat in Florida, and then I'll buy the compressor and have it shipped to me where I'm at, and not hauling it all around. So, plus the data cost could really rack up. Yeah, the data cost can really rack up, Keith. That's why so many cruisers are reliant upon free Wi-Fi wherever they travel. But there are ways of getting around that you can not spend a ton of money, but spend a little money and assure yourself good quality signal. Shame more people don't care about our reefs and oceans. Boy, Phil, isn't that the truth? Absolutely. People don't have a clue. But, Cousteau said that people only protect what they love. And it's hard for people to love what's underneath the world's oceans because they don't see it. It's under the surface. It's out of sight. A big part of my job and my motivation in doing what I'm going to be doing is bringing that to light. I want to be able to show that to people, remind them on a regular basis of what it looks like underneath the world's oceans. So that's a big part of my motivation, actually. I'm in Dayton. Okay, I know Dayton well. Did a lot of shotgun shooting over near Dayton. Is using a satellite phone as a hotspot, or do you video stream live feeds and practical or not? Actually, Kelly, that's exactly right. Using a satellite phone hotspot is the best way to do video streams and have it be pretty solid signal. People have cell phones all over the world now. Even the small third world countries, everybody's got cell phones. So hooking up with that cell phone company, getting a cell phone set up in that country, and using your data availability to upload your live stream is without a doubt one of the techniques I'll be using, and a highly successful technique to do. Yes, it costs a little bit of money to do that, but I'm taking what I'm doing very seriously. I'm hoping to build an audience, and that's going to be my income, and so I'm going to show that the respect that deserves. So I don't know if that puts it in perspective for you, but Grandpa, you might be able to talk Megan into sailing the old rough seas back to Florida. Yeah, she definitely seems like she'd be interested in visiting me on the boat, and I think it would be a lot of fun having her on board. I really do. She's a classy girl, and I think it would be a lot of fun. So fishing for spam doesn't count. Yeah, I'm not a fan of spam. Not a fan of canned meats. I've been farming my own meats for too long to start eating that crap now. So, hey, Declan, good night, buddy. Get some sleep. We'll catch you next week. I know it's pretty late for you where you're at now, so good night. Dave says you should buy a massive directional Wi-Fi antenna for your boat, then at least if you are moored anchored. Yeah, there's a number of different devices that can be bought for a marine application to boost Wi-Fi. But I do find using the cellular network as a more reliable means of doing that, rather than trying to steal, Wi-Fi. And plus, so many businesses nowadays are securing their Wi-Fi. Unless you go to a Wi-Fi diner, coffee shop or whatever that offers free Wi-Fi, you got to get the password from them and whatever. And those are fine for downloading, but they rarely have sufficient bandwidth for upload speeds that are necessary for doing a live stream. So again, doing the cell phone is a much better technique for that. Dayton isn't horrible. It's just not what I'm used to. I've lived all over the U.S., Orange County, Alabama. Probably my favorite here. Cool. My boat I'm buying has a compressor, but I have one already. I'll check it out and let you know the condition. If interested, I'm in Florida. Hey, Mike, that sounds like it might be a plan. Yeah. Yeah, if it has a compressor and it's not dead, certainly might be interested in talking to you about that. Absolutely. Youngblood's channel sounds like the typical assholes that I can't stand. Fish should be caught, but to be eaten, not for freaking trophies. Sorry for swearing, it just makes me so angry. Yeah, Phil, I understand that. And I see the same thing with all the fishing channels that are out there. The way I look at it, I'm on a very small sailboat with a very small refrigerator, and I'm floating on top of the best supply of protein that you could have in the world. So I'm not going fishing just for the sake of catch and release, and I'm not going spearfishing, to put, to set a world record. Fact is, I don't want to catch a marlin. I don't want to catch a sailfish. I don't want to catch a 200-pound tuna. Way too much work. It's just little old me on the boat. I can only eat so much. Why do I want to shoot such a big fish that I have to wrap it up and can it and freeze it and put all this stuff up? I don't want to eat canned fish. I don't want to eat frozen fish. I want to eat fresh every day. And I'm going to be right there with my spear guns and my fishing rods. If I want something to eat, I'm going to throw a line out, or I'm going to jump over the side, get what I want for dinner. I mean, to me, that's going to be like walking in the grocery store. I'm just going to jump over the side, see what's down there. I'll put out crab traps and shrimp traps if I'm in locations where those are going to be available. I'm going to tow a line behind the boat while I'm traveling from one area to other. Of course, I say a line. I'm not going to tow a line. I'm going to tow 20 lines at once. I'm going to create a school appearance on the back of my boat so I have some success. But yeah, I'm just going to catch fish for me for the day, and that's it. Grandpa, got a question for you. Was wondering, do you watch these couple of channels, and what do you think of them? Sailing Nervous and Sailing at 9,000. I actually, Sailing at 9,000 put out an episode today, and I got about a quarter of the way into it and turned it off because it just not what I was into. Sailing Nervous, they seem like a really nice couple. They really do. They seem like a really pleasant couple. I'm concerned about how scared they are of sailing. They're overly cautious. It's great that they think about what they're doing and they try to plan around everything and they're learning what they could learn. But I think they're so afraid of what they're doing that when that moment happens where you're going to have to be able to be bold and react, I don't know if they're going to be capable of that. And so I have some concerns because sometimes in life, you just got to grab something by the balls and go with it. And sailing, you have a lot of those moments happen in sailing. And so you're going to have to be careful with what you're doing. It takes a certain amount of guts to be able to go out sailing. And if you're so fearful of what you're doing, you probably shouldn't be out there. So, crazy in life. I love Daytona. I get drunk every year trying to 500. Yeah. Yeah, 500 is a good race. Sentiments exactly, Grandpa. I have no problem with that. Okay, Phil. I am glad. I agree with you. You know, Phil, I look at these, people going down there and just shooting all these. There's these TV shows where, this is, oh, she's got the world record for this fish and the world record for that fish. And I don't get that, There's a lot of fish out there, frankly, shouldn't be harvested. The science tells us that the quantities and the numbers aren't up there. You spend any amount of time on the water, you're going to know for yourself what your fish population is going to be where you're at, just by being observant. And, the thing you don't want to do is, if you're swimming on this reef and you're swimming this reef every day, and one day you see a fish you haven't seen the whole time you've been on there, that's not the fish to take for dinner because it may be the only one there. So you want to leave that one there and hope that it's going to improve its quantity. In the meantime, you see 10,000 of XYZ fish. Well, take one of them because there's plenty of them. You're not going to have such a big impact in the ecosystem. You got to be aware and conscious of those things while you're out spearfishing. The one nice thing about spearfishing is you can be tremendously selective with what you harvest, more so than you can in any other sport. To me, it's just like hunting. You know exactly what you're dropping the hammer on when you're hunting. Same thing with spearfishing. You know exactly what you're going to be taking. So I think you have a responsibility while you're out there to be very careful with what you're harvesting. Yeah, seeing him turn around the way he did had me questioning his knowledge. You're talking about the Sailing Nervous guy or the Sailing at 9,000. Either one, yes. Yep. I like it how you say how it is. Well, thanks, Kim. If I have any fault, it's because I'm pretty darn direct. I'm too old for nonsense. There's an old saying, old men don't dance. And I've been kind of an example of that my whole life. You get a couple young kids pushing and shoving and having an argument about something, and they'll push and shove and dance around it and yell at each other names and be doing a bunch of nonsense, wearing themselves out. Old men don't dance. You want to argue with us, we just go for your nuts and end it in 2 seconds because we don't have the energy for 100 punches. We're just going to hit once and make it count. I'm kind of that way with everything in life. I don't want to dance around a subject or banter about it. There's a right and a wrong, and I try to do what's right as best I can. Sometimes I make mistakes in that regard, but so yeah, I tend to be pretty direct, and that can be a fault of mine because sometimes I'm a bit too direct and my mouth gets me in trouble. But it is what it is. So, and all I can do is give you my opinion, and my opinion is, like everybody's got an opinion. So, doesn't mean I'm right. just means that's what my opinion has been. Are you related to Charlie Borman? Okay, don't know. HR, no, I'm not. Okay, I guess not. XYZ are good eating. Can be if it's the right XYZ. With respect, Phil Borman, you should watch Youngblood spearfishing before you form an opinion. They eat everything they spear. They just have access to amazing fishing where they are in Australia. Yeah, Dave, that's true, but their system is different. See, those guys go out on the boat and they shoot what they're going to eat for the next week or two before they get to go back out again. Or they go out and shoot a bunch and they share it with their friends and family and everybody else. So that's why they're harvesting as many as they are and why they're always aiming for the largest of whatever they're going after. I'm looking just, I got a wee little old frying pan. That's the way I look at it, guys. I have a wee little old frying pan. My belly is much too big. I need to make it smaller. I'm just looking for, an 8-ounce portion of fish to put on my plate for dinner tonight. That doesn't mean I got to go out and harvest a really big fish. I'm much going to be concerned with quality over quantity. I guess that's the best way I can say that. So, what is typical sail life? Tracy, I'm not sure I understand what you mean by that. You mean how long does a sail last on a sailboat? Is that what you're referring to? Grandpa, was you able to catch Sailing Creo's live stream? Yes, I did catch it. They had some technical difficulties at first, but they got it put back together again, and they had a good live stream. And I agree with you, Keith. They do seem to be very good people. I like Sailing Creo. I really like seeing the areas that they're sailing. I've been in Greece before. One of my bucket list items is to sail my own sailboat into the Greek Isles. So I'm very much looking forward to tying my boat up onto the quay and walking through town and finding the local, cart selling kebabs off the back of a cart and settling down with a good Keo beer and enjoying my evening there. That's going to be a feather in my cap that I'm almost giddy at this point thinking about how much fun that's going to be for me. I don't believe there is a typical sail life. I believe that changes for each person. Again, what are we referring to with sail life? If you have sails that, are in a bag and they're under the deck and they're not out exposed to the ultraviolet light, they can last a long time. If you have sails mounted on your boat, but they have a sacrificial edge on them or they're in a sail bag, they can last a long time. You may have to replace the sacrificial edge. You'll notice a lot of foresails, your jibs and stuff, will have a stripe along the outside edge of it. That colored stripe on the outside edge of it is designed as a sacrificial cover to take the UV light and break down so as to protect the underlying sail underneath of it. I have owned, my Cal 30, my Cal 31 that I had 30-year-old sails on them, and they work just fine. So sails, the sail material itself can last a long time if taken care of and protected. Left out into the ultraviolet light in like the Caribbean, 24 hours a day. If you're a cruiser and you're sailing pretty hard and you're using your sails all the time and you have them up, you might break down a sail in a year and have to replace it. And you may not have to replace the sail, but you may have to replace all the stitching in the sail. Again, going back to why it's a good idea to have one of these Sailrite sewing machines on board with you. So, but yeah, it just depends on how you're sailing and what you're doing with your sail as to how long it's going to live. They don't have an expiration date on them. Love seafood, not the best in landlocked Kansas. No, definitely not. And Kim, one of the craziest things, living in Montana and living in Ohio when I did, I always found it interesting how many of those people wanted to eat seafood. You're in Kansas, you eat steak. That's what you have in Kansas. You have the best steak in the world is in Kansas and in Montana. We had phenomenal steak. You're in Ohio, you eat pork because Ohio produces a shitload of pork and there's really good pork to be had in Ohio. You live in Florida? Yeah, you eat seafood. That's what you got. Oranges and seafood. So I'm not a big advocate of flying our foods all around the world and having that huge carbon footprint, because I live in Kansas and I want to eat Maine lobster or up here in Alaska, you want Alaskan salmon. Just makes no sense to me that we're flying salmon all over the world to places so they can have salmon. They have fish locally, eat the local fish. Scared to fly, so I've been out of the U.S. Keith, I agree with you, Keith. I don't like to fly anyway. I'm not afraid of flying. I'm uncomfortable flying. I'm too fat for the seats nowadays. So, and first class is too expensive in my book. So I'd much rather drive someplace if I can. So not the 4 to 6 years that some say. Tracy, again, it all depends on how much exposure it gets to UV light and whether you have it out all the time or stored down below. It depends on the sail quality, the sail manufacturer, the sacrificial stripe, the sail bag. I mean, there's so many variables that can affect sail life. So you're just going to have to realize that that's your own thing. I will say that if you want to budget replacing your sails every 4 to 6 years, that's probably a conservative figure. I think they're going to last you longer than that if you're keeping a sacrificial stripe on them and keeping them in a sail bag. You'll probably get more than 4 to 6 years on them. But certainly setting that up as a budget for replacement is not a bad idea. Yeah, I agree with you. Creo does visit some beautiful places. I really enjoy them making the beauty of the place to visit apart from their videos. Yeah, I think Creo does a really good job. They're one of my top channels that I'm watching right now. Dave, is that what they're doing? I don't have a problem with that. It's the trophy fishing and wasteful killing for the sake of killing that annoys me. Yep, I agree with that. Don't be scared to leave the U.S. There are lots of friendly, welcoming, inviting people around the world. Oh, actually, yeah, Kaizen, I agree with that completely. I may have misunderstood that. Yeah, I'm not afraid of travel. I look forward to traveling. I've been in some of the most dangerous places in the world and not had any issues. So I have no problem with that. Kim says she loves steak. Well, of course you love steak. You're in Kansas. Good steak in Kansas. I'm not scared to leave the U.S., just scared to get my ass in a plane. Keith, let me give you some perspective in that regard. More people die in their cars driving to the airport to catch a flight than die while flying. If that makes any sense to you. Let's say you have 200 people that are going to go on a flight. 200 people driving to the airport. Your odds are much greater you're going to get in a wreck and damage yourself driving to the airport to catch that flight than statistically you will while flying. The averages for flying in the world is so low. It's one of the safest modes of travel. It really is. A little hoarse today. Our sails were the originals to the Aquarius 1976 in perfect though on, and a newer set I didn't like. Well, cool. Okay. Cam is pretty hard to spear a steak though. Not as hard as you might think, Dave. Not as hard as you might think. Cows just stand there. They aren't going to run away from you. You could spear one pretty easy. And going back to the whole, firearms on board a boat, a spear gun's a pretty lethal weapon. Pretty lethal indeed. Very, very lethal. But anyhow, guys, looks like we've killed off an hour and a half. Does anybody have any specific questions for us or anything we want to specifically talk about? We've knocked around a whole bunch of ideas here today. I do hope that Barbara from Sailing Doodles gets back to me with a final deal on the boat so we can go forward with that. I'd really like to get that aspect of my life nailed down so at least I can start making some future plans, but it is what it is. Marie says she's grown up on canned salmon and tuna in Kansas. Well, that's because the only good salmon and tuna you get in Kansas is canned. It's hard to get fresh there, but Marie, there's nothing like being up here in Alaska, catching a silver salmon, filleting it out, putting it on the grill with some barbecue sauce. That's the way to eat salmon. Opening up a tin can and taking that dog salmon out of that tin can and eating that is garbage compared to getting a silver up here and throwing it on the grill and doing a little barbecue sauce with it. It's a whole different world. So I totally agree with that, Grandpa, but being 3,000 feet in the air, knowing you're going to crash and die, has to be one of the most helpless feelings. Yes, but it's very rare that that ever happens, Keith. I mean, there's millions of flights going on every year in the world, and there's only like one of those. You have a better chance of being hit by lightning. It's not nearly as scary as what you might think. A little horse today and a pony, the same thing. Yes, it absolutely is. Need a Beck's beer. Yeah, Kelly, I'm actually trying to cut back, buddy. I ran out of Beck's last week, and I haven't bought one since. I don't have any in the cabin, and I'm fine with that. I did drink a little red wine this week, and that was sort of pleasant. Had a nice dry red. But no, I'm really trying to cut back on my alcohol consumption. So, how many times have you been worried your car is falling? Oh, once or twice. Yeah, once or twice. Of course, I use my trucks for hunting, and I get up into some pretty wild country sometimes. So, got here late. We'll watch later. Okay, Marie, I'm glad that you made it. What flag will you fly? Oh, Mike, now there's a good question. I'm not going to have a state flag. I'll obviously fly a U.S. flag, but I don't have a state flag. Once I leave Alaska, I'm no longer a resident of the state of Alaska, and I don't know that I'm going to establish residency anywhere else. So I'm going to be homeless. I'm not going to have an address, so it'll be kind of interesting working around the logistics of that. So Georgia along the old powder dink tang. I'll fly if they drug me up like they did, Mr. T. That's why we want it flown it around. Okay. Huh. Jolly Roger. Yeah, now the Jolly Roger is definitely a flag I would fly. Just for the fun of it, if nothing else. I wouldn't even mind having black flags on my sailboat, or black sails on my sailboat. Be a bit of a pirate, arg. But some people carry that a little too far. Here in America, everybody gets a kick out of that, and they laugh about seeing you sailing with a Jolly Roger or what have you. You get into some of the foreign countries, they don't quite have a sense of humor like we have here in the United States. So you can get yourself in trouble with some of that stuff. Fresh fish. Canned is not fresh. Frozen is not fresh. Getting it flown someplace, that's not fresh either. So, all right, guys, and I'm glad you were here. We'll talk to you later. So, guys, we're gonna go ahead and end this here. Appreciate everybody being here and following along and watching. If you would, please do me a favor and check out my Patreon page. I now have 2 patrons. I'm really looking forward to having more. Dyson and Marie are both some of my patrons, and so take a look at that if you would and join in, and we will catch you guys next week. You guys all take care now. Oh, I got some stuff here. Well, Grandpa, I hope the deal works out with you in the rough seas. Hopefully you get deal on board comes you. I hope so too, Keith. Thank you. I'd imagine England is a no-go for that. I don't know, Tracy. I wouldn't mind sailing to England if that's what you're referring to. I have a good question. Do you have to pay any tax on your income you make through YouTube? Of course, Kelly, you have to pay taxes. There is an interesting question with that, though, Kelly, because some of that income comes from outside the United States. So you should only have to pay tax in the United States for that income that comes from the United States. But by that argument, I may have to pay taxes in a whole bunch of different countries, but probably won't reach the minimum requirement for having a tax reporting reliability. Anyhow. All right, guys. Well, you guys all take care. Have a good week. We'll see you guys later. Thanks for everything. Bye, guys. See you next week.